So the NFL Network's wrap-up show of the top 100 players in the NFL is when Michael Irvin made these comments about J.J. Watt because he was ranked ahead of Luke Kuechly, and he said that his efforts have not resulted in very many wins for his teams. Here's the quote: "Whose fault is it? He's the star of the team. If the Dallas Cowboys lose on my watch, it's my fault. If you're the baddest man on the team, you've got to take it both ways, when it ain't going right and when you ain't winning. That's on you, JJ. Watt's been the baddest man in the league, and they haven't gotten close to any kind of championship." Strong words from Irvin. Does he have a point?
No, he doesn't. And I love Michael Irvin. Michael Irvin is awesome. Michael Irvin's a Hall of Famer. He played, I didn't. Waddle played, I didn't. But we all know enough about the NFL these days to know that it's an NFL quarterback league.
Yes.
It's not a star league if you're a defensive end or a rush linebacker. J.J. Watt, look, J.J. Watt lately has angered some people because he does J.J. Watt Twitter things. And if that's the worst thing you can say about J.J. Watt, that he likes to show people how hard he's working, he likes to show people that he's the first guy on the field at Hard Knocks and the last guy to leave, I'd take J.J. Watt to start a defense every single day of the week. Now, if Michael Irvin, and Waddle's got the quarterback list, if Michael Irvin had those quarterbacks, I don't know if Michael Irvin's in the Hall of Fame today. How could anyone win? I mean, that team
You mean Michael Irvin doesn't go to the Hall of Fame with Brandon Whedon and Brian Hoyer throwing him the football?
No, those guys are career backups.
Oh, okay.
They're journeyman quarterbacks. And let's remember how the Houston Texans season went. Their quarterback overslept, and
Ryan Mallett,
and he was demoted. And then you went to Hoyer, and then you went back, and you got crushed by the Dolphins, and you were counting them out. You're like, when does Bill O'Brien get fired?
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, there's J.J. Watt, and there's the Houston Texans in the postseason. No one wanted to win the division. I get it. But let's give credit for what they achieved with no quarterback in a league that you have to have a good quarterback to win it.
That would be my top argument. J.J. Watt ain't playing quarterback. J.J. Watt, to me, is the most dominant player at the most important position in all of NFL defense, and that's elite pass rusher. J.J. Watt, to me, is the closest thing I've seen to Dan Hampton, one of my teammates. And I always thought Dan, who was at the end of his career when I got to Chicago, was the best player I had ever seen, because Dan could not only be a dominant player on the edge, they could move him inside to defensive tackle. He could have been an all-pro, or excuse me, a Hall of Famer at either position. He was a Hall of Famer because he played both positions exceptionally well, was an all-pro at both positions. I think J.J. Watt possesses some of the same characteristics and same qualities as Dan Hampton, and is an equally disruptive player. J.J. Watt has averaged 15 sacks per season in his 5 years. Again, quarterback, the most important position in all of football. I think on the other side of the ball, a dominant pass rusher is the most important player on defense, followed by a shutdown corner. He's the best in the league at what he does. They went, what was it, 2-14, 7-9, 9-7, whatever the records were. It wasn't because of J.J. Watt, who, by the way, over the course of those 3 years also contributed several receiving touchdowns, as they would use him in goal line offense. He would bat down passes. He would intercept the ball every now and again. He would force fumbles, but he wasn't under center. Here's a list of the quarterbacks that J.J. Watt has played with over the course of the last several years: Whedon, Fitzpatrick, Hoyer, Yates, Mallett, Schaub, Qerim. Luke Kuechly, I don't want to break bad on a Boston College guy. Luke Kuechly is the epitome of class and dominance from the middle linebacker position in the NFL right now. He has to be one of the best defensive players in the league. He's got the league MVP under center for him. Cam Newton is his quarterback, hence part of the reason why the Carolina Panthers have had more success than the Houston Texans. If Cam Newton was the quarterback of the Houston Texans, I believe that the Houston Texans would have a much more impressive resume.
You mean you're telling me that they would have a better chance to win that playoff game a few years ago with Cam Newton than T.J. Yates?
Yes, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to say that.
Or Cam Newton
than
Brian Hoyer this past year?
Yes.
And look, Michael Irvin,
Love Michael.
Love Michael. Dick Butkus was on a 1-13 team with the Chicago Bears. Are we going to now talk about Dick Butkus not being worthy of all of his accomplishments? You can only do so much when you're one guy in an 11-man defense when it comes to winning. No position in sports influences W's and L's like the quarterback position.
Not only was J.J. Watt, the guy who sacked 17.5 quarterbacks, he ranked second on their defense last year in total tackles, which is crazy from a defensive lineman position. Brian Cushing led the team in tackles. I don't know what more J.J. Watt can do to help propel the Houston Texans further into the postseason. And I think the Texans are really an interesting team to watch because maybe they have solved some of their quarterback issues with Brock Osweiler. I believe that's going to be one of the good early season stories in the AFC. But I don't hold J.J. Watt accountable for their lack of postseason success. This is a quarterback-driven league. I gave you the names, and I think that the biggest weakness of Mike's point as he was comparing J.J. Watt to Luke Kuechly is obviously what the Carolina Panthers bring to the table at the quarterback position with the league MVP.
And you alluded to it earlier, but you cannot deny there is a palpable fatigue when it comes to J.J. Watt. The criticism that he's getting, whether it's because of social media or the appearances and all of the other things he might be pursuing, where does that come from?
Well, people get, the oversaturation. They're probably tired of seeing him. Look, as long as he's on the field sacking quarterbacks at the rate that he has, 15 quarterback sacks per season the last 5 years, I don't care what he does in terms of social media, and as long as he's keeping it classy, because I'm not for unclassy social media. But look, I don't know why there's hatred. I really don't. He has enjoyed the limelight. Maybe some people are upset that they feel like, he is become larger than life. Let's call it
what it is. It's stupid, Jen, because here we have a society where we build them up to tear them down. And I think J.J. Watt's the classic case of building them up to tear him. We're like, wow, did you see that interception in the playoff game where he took the football and he ran it back? Do you see how strong this guy is? Then he starts showing you how strong he is, and he's in the opening scene of Hard Knocks flipping tires, and everyone's like, all right, JJ, enough already.
So he loves the limelight, he loves the camera, big deal.
If the worst thing he does, J.J. Watt, in 2016, with the stories we read every single day, so he wants to be front row at the ESPYs with, as a single guy, so be it. If he wants to tweet, look at me, look how strong I am, here's my log cabin in Wisconsin, look at all the amenities.
Who doesn't want to have a log cabin?
I would trade with J.J. Watt.
So you chalk it up to envy?
Yeah, it's 2016. Look, everyone's walking around today with a cell phone doing this dumb Pokemon thing, right? Are you doing the Pokemon Go thing?
I'm not doing it, but
I'm not either.
Yeah, everyone thinks it's so cool. Next week, people will be tweeting, this Pokemon Go thing is so stupid. This is so last week.
You're just ahead of the curve.
Everyone likes to do that. We love, we overlove, we hate.
But I guess, could that be contributing to people being then critical of his on-the-field performance? Are people now seeing J.J. Watt through a different prism because of all of this other criticism that's going on?
The point is there's nothing to tear him down about. He's performing on a team that wasn't built to win, yet he's still getting to the postseason, still making impacts in games. You think when they put on the film of the Houston Texans, whoever the opponent is, that the first person they look at is J.J. Watt? That's the first guy they look at, and they circle, how are we going to get him? How are we going to take care of him?
He makes everyone around him better as well. Whitney Merciless had an excellent season last year. Everybody around him on that defense is a better player because J.J. Watt is out there. What's not to like? Last year, 17.5 sacks, played 16 games. The year before that, played 16 games, had 20.5 sacks. The guy's usually going to cast on a hand or he's got a bad ankle. Maybe he likes to publicize some of the stuff. Maybe he likes the limelight. At the end of the day, if you're a Houston Texans fan, all I want my guys to do is be on the field every Sunday and play the game at your peak capacity. And I don't believe there's anybody on the defensive side of the football, especially rushing the passer, that has done a better job consistently the last 5 years than J.J. Watt. A lot of jealousy, a lot of hate.
How many times, Jen, have we, not we, us three, but have we heard these shows tear down LeBron? People love doing it.
You did it for quite some time as well.
I'm guilty, sure.
Way to call him out there.
Well, he was a hater.
I've come
You were a
around
hater.
now. I've come around.
You're all grown up.
Much respect to LeBron.
And you cannot deny the fact that J.J. Watt is consistently in the conversation for Defensive Player of the Year.
And MVP.
Early in the season, like 2 and 3 weeks in, you're already talking about this guy being
the debate 2 years ago was Brady or J.J. Watt for MVP.
That was a stupid debate.
It may have been, but
last
it was still.
Defensive Player, I believe it was an MVP, wasn't it? Lawrence Taylor back in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s. I mean, that's not going to happen. The quarterback touches the ball on every play.
Single possession, offensive possession. All right, we wrap up the NFL talk and move on to the NBA. Should the Lakers go ahead and trade for Russell Westbrook now instead of waiting till next year? By Waddle and Sylvie from Chicago ESPN Chicago. Just like Kevin Durant this year, Russell Westbrook can leave OKC a year from now and the Thunder would get nothing in return, or they can trade him now and guarantee they will get something back on their investment. Our Chris Broussard said on MSG, the Lakers think they can sign him. He talked to some executives Monday about possible trades the Lakers might entertain, and he was told they think they can sign him as a free agent, and they probably wouldn't want to give up anything. Should the Lakers trade for Westbrook right now?
Absolutely. If you can secure the great players in the NBA, you do it now. If he tells you that I'm going to sign with you, you do it now. But if he says, well, I'm not sure, I still want to be a free agent, then no, you keep Ingram, you keep your talent, you keep your assets, and then you take your chances next year. But I get it. Those are good young players that they have. But a year from now, you don't want him going to Beverly Hills or the Hamptons like KD and have someone else wow you that you may not be expecting. A year ago, did we ever think KD would be going to Golden State? You have to secure the players when you can get them. And next year's crop is going to be a great crop of free agents. So if you trade your young stars now and you secure Westbrook now and he signs an extension with you, you enter free agency next year with a young Kevin Westbrook playing in his hometown with room to sign Westbrook with other players that you can sign along with him.
Well, who's he bringing? I mean, he couldn't even recruit KD to stay in Oklahoma City.
Well, that's a tougher recruit.
I'm just heartbroken right now, and I'm a little disappointed. I understand why KD left. I understand why the Golden State Warriors pursued him. Listen, the only power that an NBA player has, any professional player has, and this is odd because we were talking about the franchise tag, but the franchise tag does not exist in the NBA, is exercising your free agency. So I have no hate. I have nothing but love for KD, and I have nothing but love for the Golden State Warriors for making that happen. With that said, I'm heartbroken as an NBA fan because I was so ready for the next several years of watching Oklahoma City and the Golden State Warriors square off. It felt like it was going to be just a wonderful time in the Western Conference for the next several years.
one more time. Say one more time, let's do it together. But yes. I don't
it didn't happen.
KD for doing it.
Okay. So I would ask you, and as Chris Broussard said, the Lakers feel they can sign Russell Westbrook in free agency. What are you going to have to give up now for Russell? This is a team that's already obviously in rebuild mode.
Whatever it takes.
But
you
then
give up whatever it takes.
So now you basically have Russell Westbrook and who? And you're banking on the fact that he's going to be able to recruit players to the Lakers. Look, I understand there's a lot of good things to sell about the Los Angeles Lakers. Climate, the Showtime mentality, you're in LA, everything about it seems great. But how close are you to being a legitimate contender? I love Russell Westbrook. I think he's one of the top 5 players in all of the NBA. And every time I see him play, as a Chicago Bulls fan, it just breaks my heart as well, because that's who Derek was before all the injuries. So, I know I'm going off on a tangent here. Love Russell Westbrook. But if you feel confident you can sign him in free agency, why wouldn't you wait to free agency?
What if I told you today the Bulls could sign Russell Westbrook? They have to give up Jimmy, and Jimmy Butler, and they have to give up some of their young players. Would you do it today?
Yeah, I would definitely. I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking about it.
You would do it today. I know you. You would not take your chance. If the Bulls said, we're confident we could sign him next year. Pat Riley was confident he'd sign KD this year. Phil Jackson was confident that he could sign KD this year.
So who's coming with him? So who's coming with Russell Westbrook?
Let's remember the landscape in the NBA today. Everybody signs these deals with the opt-out. Everybody wants to get another bite next year when the cap goes up and you can get a higher max deal. So with everybody, KD could opt out next year. Let's say KD doesn't like playing with Golden State and Russell Westbrook's in LA. Maybe KD left because Russell Westbrook told him, I'm not re-signing in OKC.
So why didn't KD just re-sign with Oklahoma City, and then they could have left together in free agency and gone to the Lakers, wherever else?
It's a good question, but I think he just wanted to give himself the best chance to win today. So Russell Westbrook doesn't have that option until next year.
I understand, because the Oklahoma City Thunder have nothing to show for Kevin Durant. They will have nothing to show for Russell Westbrook if he leaves as well. But if you're confident that you're high on his list of future destinations in free agency, why go ahead and give up whatever building blocks you have? I'll also add this.
Because that's the best building block. Russell Westbrook's the best building block out there.
But you are starting from scratch. You're starting from scratch with Russell Westbrook. Well, D'Angelo Russell's killing the summer league right now.
Yeah, Tony Snell's got his jersey retired.
He doesn't think too
in the
highly
summer
of his
league.
play always.
Well, I mean, listen, this isn't the strongest take or the strongest position I've had today. Not that any of them were strong, but I'm trying to give you an alternate perspective here. How about also he's 28 years of age? He has had some injuries in the past as well. He plays the game so explosively. Is there any concern that Russell Westbrook may once again be somebody that has to deal with injuries?
You can't worry about that, because as a player, he has shown you in this past year that he has emerged as a top 5 player. If he wasn't before,
dynamic.
like, he is going to be, I would think, the odds-on favorite to win the most valuable player this year.
Let me ask you a question as well. As a ball-dominant player the way he is, and he was able to obviously coexist with Kevin Durant, but I believe as the Golden State Warriors led the league in passes per possession, I believe Oklahoma City was dead last. There was a lot of hero ball. It's what got them beat in the Western Conference Finals in Game 6. They went back to their old habits, their bad habits. How many guys are going to be drawn to go play with Russell? Do you believe Russell Westbrook is a bigger ball-dominant player or more ball-dominant player than KD? Do you believe people would be more willing to want to play with someone like KD than Russell, because Russell has to have it more, even more so than KD? And does that affect the way the potential free agents would view going to Los Angeles? Look, I understand. You make a very good point. The last thing that they want in OKC is to, after this season, have nothing to show for two of the most dynamic players we've seen in recent history. But
this is what LA does. LA is able to pull off the big trade. Shaquille O'Neal, they acquire him. They get Kobe Bryant on draft day.
Still, though?
The 14th overall. If you get Russell Westbrook. Because this is fact. Everyone loves to talk about the recruiting. Jerry West closed the deal on Kevin Durant. But why did Kevin Durant go to Golden State? Because players want to play with players. That's what gets you the meaning. That's why KD's not in Miami. There aren't any more players there. Players want to win, and they want to play with other players.
Well, and I think
so Westbrook gets dealt for now, and you're starting with Russell Westbrook, knowing there's already a superstar there. Another superstar will want to. It's LA.
Look,
it's Hollywood. It's Westbrook.
It would be on my mind if I was a little taller, a little faster, and a little younger, and had a better jump shot, wanting to go to Los Angeles, and I was experiencing free agency. You make a very good point. I think KD went to Golden State for a number of reasons. It fits. The ball moves. He's not. As I said, I zoom out and I say to you, I have no hate for these guys who are leaving their existing spots where they're playing and they're moving along, and for all the old guys out there screaming, I'd rather have done it on my own. You're only saying that because it wasn't a transient league back there and you didn't have the chance to move freely via free agency, or else maybe you would have done the same.
Of course.
Well, not for nothing, but we had Mason in Ireland on our show yesterday, obviously from our ESPN LA radio station. And Ireland was convinced that the plan is to stick with those 4 young guys. They have the Russell, the Ingram, et al., and build around them. If they were to try to go after Westbrook now, certainly at least a couple of those guys would have to be considered in a deal.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you're starting from Westbrook scratch. So we will continue to follow that storyline as the NBA free agency situation or Westbrook situation plays out. All right, to baseball now. And did you guys catch this lady who caught the ball with her food tray? I said there's no way I'm sacrificing. To MLB we go, and of course, you know, the All-Star game is tonight, with the winning team getting home field advantage in the World Series. These two already shaking their heads. So, Waddle, love, like, or hate the fact that the outcome of the All-Star game affects home field advantage for the World Series?
Hate is not a strong enough word for me, and I'm not a hateful person.
Loathe.
I loathe it. I don't know if loathing something is
worse than hate.
Yeah, but you know what? I loathe and hate that there is this type of value placed on an exhibition. Let me give you some stats here, okay? Since 1985, 24 of the last 30 World Series champs had home field advantage. 9 out of the last 10 times that the World Series went to a Game 7, that game was won by the home team. That tells you how valuable home field advantage is in Major League Baseball. And for home field advantage in the postseason to be determined by the outcome of an exhibition game is the most insane concept in the history of sports. Now, to give it a little perspective, it was insane, in my opinion, before, what was it, 2002 or 2003, when this became part of the landscape because they ran out of pitchers, the game was tied, and Bud Selig was embarrassed. They just decided, okay, we're going to play for some. Prior to that, they just alternated, American League to National League. That's insane as well. I thought for a long time that the fact that Division I college football, and that's what I'm going to call it, I'm not going to commit to the new, you know, whatever they call it now, FBS, whatever it is.
FCS,
You got it, whatever it is.
Freudian, I assume.
Yeah. Division I football didn't have a playoff scenario at all. To me, that was the most insane.
Let's rank them. Let's rank a champion.
Every other championship in all of college sports is decided in some way, shape, or form by a playoff. Division II, Division III, whatever the case may be. And again, I know I'm not getting the division names correctly here. But when they instituted they at least gave it a chance. They said, okay, we're going to have somewhat of a form here via playoff system. I'm like, okay, good progress there. Now Major League Baseball, you are front and center for doing the silliest thing in the history of the world. I don't get it. This is an exhibition. Home run derby, love it. People are upset that Addison Russell, the Cubs shortstop, is starting in tonight's game because he hasn't played well. There are other guys. Crawford, I believe, for the San Francisco Giants is a better alternative. There are other guys that maybe are more deserving. I think that the fans being interactive and getting involved. I used to remember going to Riverfront Stadium in Cincinnati because baseball was my thing.
Yeah, let's click the ballot.
Stacking up those ballots and getting a sharp
usher over here
object,
with some ballots,
punching it out.
Yeah, you're
That's
voting
part
for
of
Pete
it.
Rose left and right.
I still do. I still vote for Pete, even in 2016. The point is, you don't need to change that portion of the All-Star Game stuff. Just change the value of the reward. It is insane. And actually, we talked to Rob Manfred, who's a wonderful guy, and I think going to be a very, very good commissioner for baseball. And I gave him an idea.
He wants ideas, too. He said, if you have a better idea, look, and if you put a big cash prize out there, Waddle's idea was $15 million. Total pool for the winning team split it 30 ways.
That's about $500,000 per player on the winning team.
And they'll try. Or you could sit them down and say, guys, be professional, try hard.
That would certainly incentivize players who are currently skipping it to get the break that they would otherwise get if they weren't voted into the game.
If you're making $15 million a year, I still think you'll be motivated by a $500,000 winner prize. And if you're Addison Russell, the young man who is playing shortstop for the Cubs I mentioned before, that's doubling his salary. You don't think those guys will play hard? If you want this game to be a competitive game, pay them or make it available or make a cash prize available.
Or don't worry about just one exhibition game smack dab in the middle of the season meaning so much. You play 162. By far the longest marathon in all of sports. So what do you say? You say, we want to make our regular season meaningful. We want to value winning the division. We want to value winning games. We're going to play this wild card round. Guess what? Whoever had the better record in the regular season hosts the wild card. How novel. NLDS. Whoever won the division hosts the NLDS. How novel.
Crazy.
NLCS, ALCS. Who had the most wins? You host it.
You mean host the entire thing, like the series?
Home field advantage. No, I'm saying whoever, you rank everything based on the regular season, except the most important 7-game series of your entire calendar. You start the series with game 1 with the team who won the All-Star game, their league, and you end the World Series at that home field strictly because of the All-Star game. You say all year, we're playing for something here in the regular season, but when it matters most, when the trophy's on the table and we're here to play, we don't care about what you did in the regular season. Let's say whatever happened in this All-Star game decides it. And that old man rule, just because it was worse before, just because we had a bad rule then, when we used to alternate every year,
evolve.
Doesn't matter and say, well, let's get a dumber rule to replace that rule. Let's get some common sense here. Let's get it right.
So your suggestion is that it still goes based on the team that won the division or the better record.
Everything's with record. That's how we judge everything in sports, especially
that's how you value the regular season. Make the regular season valuable. The team, once you get to the World Series, the team that had the best record in the regular season, whether it's an American League team or a National League team, that team gets to have home field advantage, which, as I described earlier, is a very important, valuable commodity.
Do you think that fans, though, like the rolling of the dice, though, that this variable can ultimately affect the outcome? I mean, we love the underdog story. We love to see the team that maybe shouldn't have gone through the playoffs, that had to play all of its games on the road in the NFL, making it to the Super Bowl.
Those who are allergic to common sense may appreciate it, but those who actually have a clear, cogent thought, and I don't know that I fall into that category, I think would subscribe to what Sylvie laid out. Listen, you go by best record all throughout the different levels of the playoffs until you get to the World Series. Come on.
Half those guys don't even have a shot of that. And yet Jake Arrieta has a chance to have his team get home field advantage in the World Series, and he's saying that he may not want to pitch tonight because he's tired. So this incentive hasn't really incentivized anything for these players.
Old tired argument, but still one that gets me crazy.
Yeah.
All right, well, the game will still go on this evening, and the format
I won't watch it.
remains the same despite
We're talking about it on our show.
I'm not watching it.
Proposing other suggestions.
Boycott.
We'll go back to the NFL for our boy Tom Waddle here. Andy Dalton and the Bengals haven't had any luck in the playoffs over recent years. Is this the year they get over the hump?